Hi there, everybody. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. It is Fiona from Mind Your Matter Healing
Amy from Astrology with Amy.
and together we are stars and cards. Amy is the star and I'm a bit of a card. But if you've watched us before or follow our work, Amy is an amazing astrologist and I play around with quantum numerology and cards of life. So we have found that this works beautifully together to tell a story as a forecast and helps people get a feel of the energy as the world evolves, the universe spins round us, and we all get shaken up in our own evolution through these cycles of numbers and planets and stars. So Amy and I today are getting together and doing a video for you looking at next year, 2025. So we hope you're ready for it. I've looked at the numbers myself as I do every day. I don't know what Amy's got in her stars, so I'm excited to hear the astrology side of it. But to jump straight into it, I'll have a quick word firstly about with the work that I do, it can be just straight numerology. So this year, 2024, that's ending, is an 8 energy year as you add up all those numbers in 2, 2, and 4. And it has really been a year for momentum and mastery of a lot of life lessons, emotionally, mentally, physically. And it has been the year really where you've had to focus on what you're doing to get it right in preparation for 2025, which is just in a couple of days' time or whenever you're watching this video. So if you add up 2 and 2 and 5, that actually equals the 9, which is the last in the sequence of evolutionary numbers with numerology that I work with. So the 9 next year, it's a big one because the 9 as a number, it is the magic number because if you add anything to the 9, so you add 5 to 9, that's 14, and then you add the 1 and 4 together, it comes back down to the 9. So everything in 2025 is going to be a reflection back to yourself with the completion of this evolutionary cycle in mind, ready to let go of those shadow parts of us that do not serve us for the next stage of evolution. It's also the magnifier because if you break down numbers and get into multiplication, say the 5 and the 4 added together is the 9. If you times 6 by 9, it comes to 54. 5 and 4 add up to the 9 again. So the 9 has a lot of magic in the mathematics of it. And to me, maths is the building blocks of the universe. When space and movement come into play with what Amy does, that's the geometry, the sacred geometry, and helping matter form. So I see the numbers as a forecast, and what Amy does maybe a little bit more with being able to plan things and a predictive force. Would that be right, Amy? Do you?
Astrology gives probably, to relate it back to what you do, insight, which is the same as you, into the patterns and cycles of our lives. It tells us what time it is to do things, when things happen, and it's really useful for gaining understanding and how to work with the different cycles of life. I think, what you do does that as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And just in saying that too, out of my own curiosity to extend the conversation. So I'm a Capricorn. So to me, January really is a new year every year because it's early in January, my birthday. Is that a similar ilk? Like, say, if your birthday is in April, would you energetically see that as a new year, a renewing?
Yeah, well, there is. Yeah, well, there is a like often when I'm doing predictive stuff for people, there is a solar return chart, and that will give insight into what's sort of going on in your life for 12 months. So with the solar return chart, the sun goes back to the same place it was in the sky when you were born, which happens around the day of your birthday. Sometimes it's the day before, sometimes it's the day after. But that's like a restart for 12 months of patterns and stuff like that. So yeah.
Wow. Next year it is going to be very cool because it is, again, with the numbers, going to take us through the full evolutionary journey, which doesn't always happen. Obviously, it only happens every 9 years, and it's a big step in. So it's exciting. One thing, Amy, can I share my screen for a moment because I just want to show.
Yeah, you should be able to just do it.
Okay. Just do it. Let's see.
That's if Zoom's being nice.
All right. Is Zoom being nice to me?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yep. So this is, aside from numerology, this is meta symbology that I work with the playing cards. So it is like the ancient tarot hidden in a game of poker. So if you work with tarot at all and you know the different suits there of cups and swords and so forth, with the playing cards, we have 4 main suits. So you'll see today, right down here, December 30th, it's the Ace of Hearts. So, and then tomorrow is the Joker. It's the only time the Joker appears in the deck is New Year's Eve. And you'll see how this flow happens during the year. The beginning of the year starts with spades. And it's the deeper meaning and the higher purpose in life. After we've gone through the light period, sacred traditional periods of Christmas and December, we start the year in this, what is the deeper meaning in your higher purpose in life? And you'll see it then flows down into the other suits through January, and then February it gets a little bit smaller with the spades. So in this top corner of this chart here, you've got a lot of spades happening. As we get to the end of the year, there's no more deeper meaning and higher purpose. We end in hearts. There's more hearts down here at the bottom corner at the end of the year. And it's really evolving us through, as I say, let's put my glasses on for a sec, but the deeper meaning, higher purpose first, and then diamonds. You'll see, if you can see my mouse waving around, it's where we start to dive into our values in life. Clubs is our mind and our expression, and then more of the heart, emotional energy towards the end of the year. So this is how the playing cards or metasymbology lives and breathes us and evolves us through the year. If you think about the deck of cards, there's 52 weeks in a year, there's 52 cards, there's 4 seasons in the year, there's 4 suits, that sort of thing. So I just wanted to point that out, how this as a modality supports our evolution throughout the year, just aside from the numbers, but with the suits as well. And it's very playful, on the 30th of December, which is today that we're recording it, it is Ace of Hearts. It's 1 hearts. It really all comes down to knowing thyself, loving thyself, trying to be the best person you can be so you can invite people into that space. The Joker on New Year's Eve is all about the wild card. Life is really about anything you want it to be. So
is the Joker similar to the Fool in tarot?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
And is each of the suits like related to like the fire element, earth element?
Yes, that's very similar. And as I say, it was just disguised in the game of playing cards in the time where people were being burnt for playing with tarot, I guess. So, and instead of using
a sneaky tarot.
Yeah, that's right. And instead of interpreting the meanings straight from a book, it really is more a scaffolding to allow your intuition to come through as you read those cards for people based on, as you say, the energy, earthy, fiery, mind, emotion, body, that sort of thing. And then the numbers. So I love playing with it. So that's fun. Yeah, it just adds an extra level to those numbers too. So Now, just to prattle on with the 9 energy year, I'll just briefly talk about the overview of what the 9 does, and then we'll get Amy to start breaking down the year a bit more. So with this 9, as I say, it's the end of the cycle of evolution. So it really is, and I know we hear this all the time, but it's about letting go of things that do not serve us. If you catch yourself wondering that next year in 2025, should I let it go? The answer is absolutely going to be yes, because it has evolved us to the point where we need to let go of things to create space to invite the new in. So you'll probably be really inspired in 2025 to reach these new levels of personal awareness and particularly accountability to your main purpose. So anything that is really keeping you from living in this alignment with your true self and purpose and passion, if you don't let it go, circumstances may arise that let it go for you. So take some time to contemplate on that. This 8 energy year has really got us to master emotional, mental, and physical issues in preparation for the 9 energy year. So tap into your intuition, really find out what feels in sync for you with what you're doing. And, you know, it can be a great year of celebration as well, but release really is going to be the key, whether it's inspired kind of by you or by everything around you. The cycle will really want us to complete. So try and do it lovingly and gratefully. And it will really help deepen our connection with ourself or spirit or our God or whatever words you want to put around that. So yeah, it's a big one.
So if people are looking at what their personal year is in numerology, just
Yep.
say they have a personal 6 year, which is about balance, home, family, responsibility, do they need to pull that 9 energy into the personal 6 year as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It is really going to highlight, magnify, and reflect back every other number with what's going on for you. So with your personal energy year, yeah, that's right. The endings, if you're in a 6, the endings, the graceful letting go will come with, as you say, that 6 energy, family, friends, trusting, um, you know, beautifying your environment, intimacy, all those beautiful things with a 6. So if you're really hanging on and not willing to let go on a 6 energy year, the shadow side of it will be amplified. So you could find yourself feeling really victimized or cruel to yourself or others, anxious, materially focused, that sort of thing. So
Have the attitude, nobody likes me, everybody hates me. I think I'll just go eat worms.
yeah, that's right. Is that your year? Are you a 6 year, Amy?
No, I was a 6 year this year. I'll go into a 7 year next year, and I'm not looking forward to it.
Well, it is all about really trusting in yourself and intuition, taking action and being brave. A 7 personal year, independence, confidence, all that sort of thing. So, yeah, try not to be too stubborn.
That's a problem.
So I am going into a personal 9 energy year. I move with the cycle of the universe. So yeah, I'm a little bit trepidous about what next year's going to bring. But you know, to embody what I speak, I'll walk through it gracefully. I pray.
Gracefully with a bottle of gin.
Maybe, yeah. Anyway, so as far as overviews of the year, have you got like a bit of an insight for us, or do you want to break it down monthly? What do you reckon?
Well, I'll just say that the astrology of next year is quite remarkable. Like all the outer planets will be changing signs. Mars, which is retrograde now, is going to be pretty much in its retrograde cycle for the first part of next year. Venus and Mercury are going to be retrograde in the same part of the sky at pretty much the same time. And there'll be eclipses mainly in the Pisces Virgo axis, but there will be the final eclipse earlier on in the year in Aries, because since the end of 2023, we've been having eclipses in the Aries Libra axis. So the one in Aries I think it's in March, will be the final one in that series of eclipses. So the gods are having quite the party next year.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm going on holidays.
Hey.
That's it. I'm going on holidays. I'm going to find a rainforest somewhere.
Yeah, I think I'll just be digging a hole and hiding in that for a little while. But anyway, but I don't know, like I feel like inside myself, like it's just a year of massive change, and most of us have probably been like feeling this the last couple of years anyway. And to be honest, like sometimes, and I know myself and a few other people that I've spoke to, they're looking forward to change. Last couple of years have just like set the scene, and I think most people are just ready to get on with it somehow. Like that might not be for everyone, but I know I'm looking forward to a bit of change.
That's a really good point, actually. I shouldn't joke too much about wanting to run away and hide in a rainforest, although I do plan to do that. But as you say, you definitely, it has been a few years of build up. And again, that's why I like the cycle of numbers, because it's really starting to contract us to the point where we have just had enough, and we are looking forward to a bit of letting go and creating space and the next adventure.
Yeah,
And it
there's
sounds
still
like a big one.
yeah, there's like I still have a bit of anxiety and fear associated with it, because I think for most people, changes can be quite confronting, and I like routine and everything to be the same. And then when I'm thrown in a different environment, I crack the shits. I mean, I've got a lot of fixed energy in my chart. I do not like change. But at the same time, I'm actually, because I've felt stuck with the same shit, not really going anywhere for a little while. Like I'm just, yeah, I'm also got a lot of Capricorn, so I want to sort of get going with stuff and make things happen.
Mm.
But yeah, most of the time change isn't easy, but we often look back at the massive change in our life and say, thank fuck it happened. Not all the time, but sometimes.
Absolutely, yeah. Distance from events is sweet reminiscence instead of the trepidation looking ahead, waiting for it. So,
Yeah.
mm,
All right, so we're going to start with January.
yes.
Yeah.
All right. So, and January. So again, this is a rarity with the numerology, that each year is carrying the number energy of the month's position in the year. So this year, January is a one energy year. And say that only happens every 9 years. And because of the magic of the number 9, it's going to be amplified as a one. So January is, as you'd expect in a new year. This is why I'm still positive for next year, because it will flow quite beautifully. The one energy month is going to be about new ideas and inspiration, curiosity, fresh potential, goal setting, planning, which is what a lot of us love to do in January, communication, conversation, taking action, that sort of thing. On the shadow side of the one, so things to be wary of if you're a bit stuck in the mud or on the reactive side of the nervous system, January really could have you overthinking, being attached to the past, not wanting to let go, confusion, bit of laziness, feeling isolated. And instead of being self-reflective and purposeful, we can get quite self-centered and complaining too. So if you find yourself on that disempowered side, bit of breath work, move through the body. The number one is a physical energy. It's a masculine energy. So yeah, a bit of body work will be really helpful. Exercise, walking, whatever floats your boat in January.
All right, I'll just share my screen because if I don't have a chart in front of me, I get confused. I'm easily confused. That's not what I want. I want solar fire. Okay, just let me organize my screen.
Wheel of Fortune. Spin it, Amy.
Wonder if I can bring up some gold and millions of dollars. Okay, so in January, Mars will re-enter Cancer. So where's my... We got Mars here, like today's the 30th of December. So we got Mars here at 0 degrees of Leo, and Mars is retrograde, so it'll be going back into Cancer. So when planets are moving forward in the sky, they go around the zodiac this way. And then when they decide to turn around and go backwards, they go this way through the zodiac. Excuse my drawing. So basically Mars got to 5 or 6 degrees of Leo in early December. So if I actually bring the chart back. So around the early December, Mars stopped there in the sky at 6 degrees. And since about the 6th, 7th of December, it's been going back this way in Leo, going 6, 5, 4, 3, and it's currently at 2. And then when we get to the 6th of January, sorry, if I don't set this scene, you won't know what I'm talking on about. So between the 6th and 7th of January, Mars will come back here into Cancer. Now, Mars was already in Cancer from about like October, November. So probably some themes and events that were going on in your life in October, November will, probably September as well when I think about it, will start to come up again. And on the 14th, often too, when Mars is in Cancer, our energy and drive can sort of fluctuate a bit. Passive aggressive behavior, being snarly, and we sort of just, it's probably just not really knowing where to direct our energy, because one minute, okay, we can do this, and we're off over here, and yeah, you can just, sometimes you've got the go and sometimes you don't. People can just be a little bit emotionally cranky. And one of the, we have this like full moon on the 14th. And I really reckon this is just going to really kick off what the Mars retrograding in Cancer is going to be about. So we've got the full moon. When there's full moon, the moon's in the opposite, the sun here, and the moon's in the opposite part of the sky. So that'll be like sitting right next to Mars. So this full moon in Cancer conjunct to Mars retrograde, it's just going to be like a big highlight, pivotal point in the whole greater Mars retrograde cycle. And a couple of days later, Mars will oppose the sun as well. So it's just like something, things have been building a bit, and there's just going to be a massive turning point is, as far as, it can be some family issues, it can be how we feel. There's just going to be like this big turning point. What else we got in January? We've also got on the 28th, Venus entering the shadow period of its retrograde cycle. So let's bring this up. So Venus is going to be retrograde in both Pisces and Aries this year. And it's going to be, and while this retrograde is going on, there's going to be like Mercury retrograding at the same time and a big, massive solar eclipse in Aries. So like this Venus retrograde is quite pivotal. So with Venus retrograde, Venus is going to, when it gets to, what have I got here? 24 degrees of Pisces. I thought I was doing days and I was clicking freaking hours. Wondering why it wasn't going.
The world
Okay.
slowed down.
Okay, so on the 28th of January, Venus is going to get to around 24 degrees Pisces. Okay, and that's going to be the point that Venus will station direct at. And what I mean by station direct at is Venus will go forward in the sky, get to 10 degrees Aries, stop, and then back up into the sky and get back to 24 degrees Pisces and start moving forward again. So Venus will keep going to about 10 degrees of Aries, stop, turn around and go back to 24 degrees of Pisces and then stop and go forward again.
Wow.
Now, when a planet enters the shadow period, it's the point in the sky where it's the beginning of where a planet's going to move forward and back 3 times in the zodiac. So it's really that's really when a greater retrograde cycle starts heating up. So yeah, towards the very end of January, we should get some real clues as to how the greater Venus retrograde cycle will play out. And then on the 31st, so the very end of the month, we've got Uranus starting to move forward again at 23 degrees of Taurus. So often when those big outer planets change directions, we can get a real feel for what they mean. And often I find when Uranus starts moving forward again or starts moving backwards, especially if it's hitting one of your planets through like a square, an opposition or whatever, or conjunction, just some random shit happens. And we just want to make some changes. So yeah, Uranus is the great change maker of random crap happening. Sometimes it's good though.
Yeah.
So people probably with planets around 23 degrees, the fixed signs, which are Taurus, Aquarius, Scorpio, and Leo, will be feeling this. So yeah, January is mainly focused on that Mars retrograde cycle. So we're going to get like that full moon in Cancer, and it's just going to act like a real tipping point of what's been going on with the Mars retrograde cycle. So you want to see where Cancer is in your natal chart. So say if Cancer is in this chart, it's your second house. There can be like you've probably had some financial stuff you've been focusing on. So there's probably a real shift or turning point into that ongoing story regarding your money. Or if Cancer's your 6th house, there's probably going to be a big turning point with the greater stories that's probably been going on since the end of this year with your health. Yeah, so you want to check where Cancer is in your chart, and those house topics will probably see a bit of a turning point. Okay, so we'll go to February.
Chart with me when you talk about this. I'll have a look at that later.
I'll just stop the share so you can talk.
That's all right. All right, so February, again, second month of the year, and numerologically, it will be a 2 energy month. So the 2 is an emotional number, and it is about, as you can imagine, with emotions, it's about connection, compassion, funny, making decisions. So if you're struggling after what you were just speaking of in the end of January, February will really support coming to terms with things, making some decisions, and really encouraging sharing of ideas and collaboration, helping find resources. So be open to people and resources around you to help. It can be very much about mediation, using your intuition, integrating your ideas. And, after saying yes in the January, in the 1 energy month, stepping forward in February is encouraged and supported with the 2. So you might have said yes, and then you've actually got to start taking action and integrate these ideas. On the shadow side, if we aren't feeling into these connections and compassion, we can start to get into our shadow side of codependence. February can have us feeling quite insecure, emotionally indecisive, needy, clingy, procrastinating. It's not got a lot of physical energy with it. It is about contemplation and emotions and intuition and the like. So confusion can be on board, and a real disconnect from yourself. And the result of that is a disconnect from others as well, and loneliness. So again, always coming back to that, knowing yourself so you can feel connected to yourself. Others will be attracted to that more authentic energy than trying to be someone others expect you to be, perhaps. So the 2, and it's beautiful. Valentine's Day is in February, isn't it, as well? It will be a really sweet energy if you're organised and on the more empowered side. And to me, it always comes down to your nervous system as well. So if things are starting to get out of control, just stop and breathe, gather your thoughts, act more mindfully, which can be very difficult with a emotional energy on board, as we'll have in February.
I think Venus is going to be in Aries when Valentine's Day happens, slowing down to turn retrograde. So it might be quite interesting for some people.
Sounds
Venus is associated in astrology with love, our desires, connection, beauty, and the arts. Anything that makes us go, oh, that's lovely.
Perfect.
So, yeah. Is December like a 2 energy?
December?
Yeah, like now.
What we're in now? Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So February will have a bit of a similar feel to what's been going on in December.
That's right. Yeah, but amplified and again reflective. So the power of the 9, it isn't just bringing it up to a halt where it's going to spill over and complete a cycle. It is about if you're out there judging the world, it's really encouraging us to turn the fingers around and look at ourselves. So yeah, if you've been able to blame everybody else in December for your problems, February won't let you do that.
Fall down on your shit.
Yeah, for sure. Which is only a good thing, in the results. So
I'll just bring up the main astrology happening in February. So the first thing I'm going to mention is, actually on the 4th, Jupiter is going to stop in the sky and start moving forward again in January. So, okay. So we've got Jupiter here stationing to move forward again at 11 degrees of Gemini. So with Jupiter went into Gemini in May this year, May 2020. And wherever Jupiter goes, it often brings a bit of happiness, growth, luck, and opportunity. So Jupiter has been gifting that to the Gemini house in your chart. So if Gemini sits over your fourth house, you can have some people could have bought a home, you could have moved to a better place, some good luck in your family, financial abundance within your family. Or if Gemini is your ninth house, you've probably been going to do a lot of travel and opportunities to go out and see the world and to develop your faith and belief systems. So Jupiter went retrograde in October at about 21 degrees of Gemini. So since it's been going backwards, probably the luck and opportunity haven't, quite flowed as well. But now when it starts moving forward again, probably the good momentum and flow you felt between May and October will be back. And Jupiter's really got something to say and really something to gift you if you have any planets or sensitive points at 11 degrees of Gemini, or the other mutable signs, which are Pisces, Sagittarius, and Virgo. So even though Jupiter is what's known in its detriment, or I think it's exile is another word some people use, in Gemini, I mean, when you've got a benefic planet Jupiter that generally wants to bring good things, when it's in a sign that doesn't, where it has a bit of trouble expressing itself, it's still not completely shit. Often Jupiter and Gemini just means lots of opportunities, but it's hard to probably actually take one to the next level because you're juggling too much. So yeah, I mean, Jupiter's been the house that it's been going through for me has brought some good stuff. And I did find that when Jupiter did start going retrograde again, the flow lost a bit of momentum. So I'm actually looking forward to getting a little bit of the momentum back. Okay, and so on the 4th of February, Venus is also going to enter Aries. That's the 5th, but it'll go in there on the 4th. So it'll be starting to kick off the Aries part of your chart, the greater with its retrograde that'll occur in early March. So Venus is what's known as exalted in Pisces. So Venus topics typically do quite well in Pisces. And I just feel that with this, it's something's been new, or some changes that have been occurring with Venus topics like love, connection, desire, and relationships probably seem a little bit okay. But when Venus gets into Aries, it's oh, fuck, what's going on? It's just not going to be as sweet. It's going to be a little bit edgy and fuck you. So it's Venus is going from this nice little thing of love and kindness and sweetness into this god of war. So I think, well, Venus will be retrograding in both Pisces and Aries. So it's this, some challenging stuff, but some good stuff as well. I think it would just be oh fuck, what just happened moment. So that'll be on the 4th. And then on the 24th of February, which I am so looking forward to, Mars will station direct. I hate Mars retrogrades. 7. Go to the 24th. Around the 24th of February, might be a day before or after or whatever, depending on where you are in the world. So Mars will stop in the sky at 17 degrees of Cancer and then start moving forward again. So that's going to act like a real turning point for whatever's been going on in the Cancer house in your chart. When with retrogrades, the two stations. So what I mean by station is there's actually standing still in the sky and changing directions. So those 2 points of the retrograde are, often when the most important crap happens. Well, not always crap, but most important events, I probably should say, because not all when a planet stations, not all the time the events are shit, but they can be. So yeah, I think it's going to probably feel like a bit of a relief in a lot of ways. I just kind of think it's kind of funny how Mars is moving forward in the sky and Venus is about to station retrograde at 10 degrees of Aries, and Mars rules Aries, so it's hosting Venus. So it's it's like handing over the baton a little bit.
Yeah, right.
Mars is in its I don't think the first station of the Venus retrograde is going to be very graceful. But I think the second one might be, it's like, I think it'll be a bit rough, but there'll be good come out of it. Yeah, the first station of this Venus retrograde looks a little bit chaotic and uncomfortable to me.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's like a real contraction at the beginning of the months and then another little squeeze towards the end of the month to make sure you got it.
Yeah, and I kind of think it's kind of funny that, like as you said, the two personal month, or what, not personal month, universal month, I should say, is the 2, and that's about connection and relationship with others. And then there might be some, chaos. It's, this is really reinforcing this, how we relate to others.
And it's funny, we always have a negative connotation on the word chaos, but again, it's a creative force. It's throw everything in the air and patterns will organize things if our small human conscious minds can't get our shit together to do it. So sometimes we need freedom.
Nothing changes and nothing grows unless there's chaos. So sometimes it does need to happen. And I mean, it all really depends on like how Venus is in your chart and where is Aries. Like for some people, it's not going to be that rough, to be honest, but it does point to me just probably some uncomfortable situations that cause you to reconsider what you want from love, what you want from the connections in your life, your desires. I often find too when Venus goes retrograde, especially if Venus is retrograding in someone's first house, they'll go and get a different hair color or they'll change their appearance somehow. So sometimes Venus retrogrades, they're not all that bad. Sometimes just with the Venus retrograde too, it can mean like, you finally get engaged as well, or like the next step of a relationship or the next progression. Sometimes we can meet someone new during this time. I have known people to break up at the start of a Venus retrograde cycle, and then by the end of it, they're back together. My brother got married when Venus was retrograde, and he's still married. He's been married for a while, actually. So, it doesn't always mean doom and gloom. But it just means like a change of circumstance, twist in fate to the relationships and the connections in your life. And the stage that will play out on will have to do with the house topics of Aries and Pisces.
Right. Okay.
So anybody with any planets between 10 and 0 degrees of the cardinal signs, which are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, this Venus retrograde will have something to say. And those who have planets between 24, around 24 degrees, I'd say, of the mutable signs, which are Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Gemini. So Venus is often retrograde for about 40 days too. And it's retrograde in a roughly the same part of the sky, give or take a degree every 8 years. So, in March 2017, think back to then, there might be some themes that are revisited. And if you think back then and you broke up with someone, it doesn't mean it's going to happen again. It just means you'll probably be dealing with some relationship stuff, but it doesn't mean the exact same thing's going to happen.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Good.
All right.
So with February, all about that. And the number 2, it's interesting, you know, with things being shaken up, changes perhaps. Moving on to March, is that it for February that you wanted to?
Yeah, I think in February we're really going to be exploring our close connections and whether some changes need to be made.
Yeah, right. With the meta symbology, with the cards of life too, like February, we start again with the spades, deeper meaning, this higher purpose. So, but then we jump into our values. What do we value in people? So that's interesting. And then it finishes with clubs. So we start to tap into not just how we feel physically with what we value and what we look like, but it really starts to garner how we're thinking about our connections as well. So, look, with March, we step into, as you'd see the pattern by now, into the 3. So, this is the real evolutionary cycle of next year. It really is going to live and breathe us. So, February is about that, all right, finding resources, forming connections. Once that's happened, the 3 in March brings us play and celebration and excitement, like friends and groups, multiple ideas and experiences, social success, that sort of thing, entertainment, laughter, creativity, pleasure. So if we've gotten February down pat, we've worked with the frequencies, we've noticed our shadow sides, we've worked out our relationship with ourselves and others. March really invites us to step into that and play with it. Flamboyance, abundance, nurturing, that sort of thing. The shadow side of that, again, if you didn't quite get it together in the February, the shadow side of the 3 is grief and anxiety, discouragement, feeling a bit lost or spread too thin. The 3, it's a mental plane. It's the first in the mental plane numbers. So we can, again, get, with the mind, we can get quite judgy, comparing ourselves. And that's the opposite of, you know, being free to play and be social when we're, you know, at home judging and comparing ourselves to others, negative self-talk and punishment, that sort of thing. So, yeah, try and dive into how you feel about relationships with yourself and others. That will definitely get reflected back to you in February, and then create this beautiful space and environment to play in March, hopefully. If not, again, if we don't let go of these things, hopefully we've brought in the resources in February to support us in March, because it can get pretty icky in the mind if we are on that disempowered side and refusing to see our shadow in the mirror and how we write these stories about ourselves and what other people think. It's really about what do you think about you. Everyone else will make up their own mind, whether you like it or not. So that is definitely the highlight for March.
Okay. What I've got to say about March is it's going to be actually the biggest month of the year, I reckon, for a lot of people. February, March, and April are just like this hectic tipping point. So in March, we've actually got Venus will actually go retrograde on the 2nd. And then also, as Venus goes retrograde, Mercury will enter its shadow period, which is, you know, about the same as what Venus was, because they're in the same, like they're going to be retrograde in the same part of the sky, give or take a degree. So it's just like this real emphasis between 10 degrees of Aries and about 24 degrees of Pisces. But Mercury won't go retrograde. So Venus will go retrograde at 10 degrees on the 2nd, but Mercury won't actually go retrograde until the 15th at 9 degrees. So they're pretty much in the same part of the sky. And then the icing of the cake is there's going to be an Aries partial solar eclipse happening at 10 degrees of Aries as well. So if you've got anything at 10 degrees of Aries, there's massive change coming, I reckon. So anyway, so we got, let's go to the 2nd.
That starts the 2nd of March.
Yeah, the 2nd of March, Venus will actually turn retrograde, but often, like with any, especially inner planet retrogrades, especially to probably more so Mercury and Venus, like the couple of weeks before it actually goes retrograde, that seems to be when you like most of the storyline gets set up, or there's the plot twists. Yeah, so on the 2nd, Venus will start moving backwards. So I'd say 2 weeks before Venus goes backwards and probably up to a week after. That's like when the, height of the, plot twists, change of circumstances or whatever's going to happen. And as like Venus is doing that, Mercury's, getting ready to go and dance in its retrograde and, cause some chaos and change and, twists of fate as well. And then, so yeah, we've got Venus going retrograde. And then Mercury goes up and goes retrograde on the, pretty much the same part of the sky. And then there's going to be like a huge, like the final eclipse in Aries. Because like eclipses started on the Libra Aries axis back at the end of 2023. And this is going to be the final, the grand finale of that story, so to speak. So you want to check to see what axis the Libra Aries signs are on. Libra Aries axis, what houses that sits over. So if Libra is your 2nd house, Aries will be 8th house sort of thing. Yeah, and whatever's been going on, you'll probably see like a bit of a recurrence of an intensity of certain themes around an eclipse season. So yeah, this is like Venus is turning retrograde at 9 degrees, Mercury's turning retrograde Venus is turning retrograde at 10 degrees, Mercury's turning retrograde at 9 degrees, and then there's going to be this, Aries, the grand finale, Aries eclipse. It's on at 8 degrees, sorry, so pretty much the same part, 9 degrees. So, yeah, this 9-10 degrees of Aries is really getting kicking. So if you've got anything at 9 degrees of the mutable, or not the mutable, the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, you're going to know all about it. Even if you've got anything, between 24 and 29 degrees of Pisces. And not only is that occurring, but at the very last day of them, is there only 30 days in March? I presume so. 30 days has September. No, there's 31 days.
31.
At the very end of March, good old Neptune is going to go into Aries. Now, Neptune spends about 14 degrees in a sign. So I think Neptune's been in Pisces since about 2010. Neptune, can make us see things with rose petal eyes. It's got this altruistic, idealistic feel to it as well. It also can bring in disappointments and things just dissolve away. So it's, to me, with all this as well, like the nodes are going into the Virgo Pisces axis. We've already had the first eclipse that happened in Pisces in about September 2024. So it's like this real like shift. There's this like this dance, and people are changing positions as far as the Aries and Pisces houses are concerned. I mean, the Aries Libra axis and the Virgo Pisces axis is involved, of course, but it's like these two signs, Aries and Pisces, have been having this dance, and now everything's just shifting around, because later in the year, Saturn's going to dip into Aries as well. So it's just this Aries and Pisces is just really emphasized. Pisces will sort of, I mean, not Pisces, Neptune will hover in and out of Pisces until about next year, and the same with Saturn. But it's just like this, you know, there's this dance that's been going on, and now they're changing sides. So I think, we'll still be dealing with those themes a lot, but it's just how they play out and how we deal with them will change. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's funny. 31st of March with meta symbology, it's the 5 of clubs as far as the card frequency comes in. So it really is about changing the mind quite substantially, and how we communicate that as well. So
Yeah, and all that, if I remember, I could be wrong here, but if I remember correctly, like a lot of that shit that's been going on with Israel in the Middle East, that's really been amplified whenever there's been like some sort of Aries or Libra eclipses when those have been happening. So I just wonder what's in store for the Middle East in March.
yeah, it has formed a pattern, hasn't it? I mean, there's plenty of other things going on in the world, but yeah, Israel, Gaza in particular has been highlighted at those times. So I know we've talked about that.
Yeah, and like Neptune's it's a very watery, emotionally sensitive, intuitive planet, whereas Aries is like gung ho fighter. It's going to be like, I think it's going to have a bit of a feel of like putting water on a fire a little bit. So I'm hoping that like Neptune and Aries might act like a bit of a balm. So
Well, hopefully,
yeah.
hopefully, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, March is huge.
Well, again, as I say, the contraction of things, when things get really big, it's preparing for the next stage too. And with April, it's a 4 energy month with the numerology, and the 4 is, again, it's a physical but a more grounded, really earthy kind of energy where you can be more productive but hopeful and opportunistic as well. It's about commitment, completing tasks as well, being stable and safe, organized, and really foundational. So hopefully some water does put the fire out, balms things down, and we can have a bit of hope for things to become safer and more stable in these areas where they're not. It's a real completion energy of 4. The other side of that obviously is being dissatisfied in the physical world and exhaustion, feeling trapped, tedious, avoidant, unsteady and fearful, bit of vulnerability and a bit of chaos as well. So yeah, that's the disempowered side of the 4, but the stable of the empowered side of the 4, it really can, after the build up of the planning, the 1, 2, 3 that we've gone through, that's the arrow of the planner. The 4 then starts to organize things and step up to start to build things in a stronger way.
In April, with the astrology on the 7th, Mercury will station direct at 26 degrees of Pisces, and it'll station conjunct Saturn. On the 13th, Venus will station direct at 24 degrees in Pisces conjunct Saturn. So that'll sort of start wrapping up those 2 retrograde cycles. So I think there's just going to be a bit of these, shit's happened, and now we have to be realistic about what happened and do what we need to do and get on with it. Saturn brings this really sort of serious, realistic tone to what's going on. Sometimes it can be like a bit of a joy killer. It's like you just get this dose of realism that, yeah, okay, this is what I need to do and there's nothing I can do about it. I've just got to work through it. Saturn though can, sometimes through chaos, it can help us build structures and discipline that can take us a long way. Actually, Saturn is quite prominent actually in the chart of highly successful people. But usually the Saturn's well dignified. If you got a night chart and Saturn is in a say Aquarius, not Aquarius, Leo or Cancer, it can cause a lot of problems. But sometimes we need a bit of like a good reality check to build something that's worthwhile and lasts the test of time. Because sometimes when our head's high in the sky, that's where it stays and nothing really ever happens.
Yeah. Yes, true that. If things aren't stable, I'd say in April they will physically come to a bit of a crumbling.
Yes, like with the energy of the 4, it's a bit of a working realistic number, I take it. Am I right
Yeah,
there?
very much. Yeah,
And
it is
then,
the sensible number. It's the 4's at the bottom of the whole matrix. So it's like a cup. It holds the rest of the frequencies to organize them and ground them into reality. So
yeah,
but
yeah, so
always remembering for something to be big and strong and stable, it must have flow engineered into it as well. So you can't be too pig-headed about things.
well, I think Pisces, I mean, not Pisces, I'm getting my words mixed up. I've got Pisces on the brain. Um, um, yeah, April's, I think, is about getting real and getting on with it. And on the 18th, Mars will enter Leo, finish up. Mars is in Leo at the moment. So what's sort of happening actually right now in the Leo part of your chart? We'll sort of get a grand finale. But Mars is better in Leo, I think. A lot of people with I know I'm a Leo rising, and normally when Mars is like moving forward and doing well, normally for me, when Mars is going through Leo, I've actually got a lot more energy than usual. But because Mars has been slowing down in Leo, I feel like my batteries are flat, like I'm fucked. Sorry, excuse the French.
Yeah.
So I'm actually I think next time Mars goes through Leo, from the 18th of April onward, I don't think it's going to feel so heavy as it does now.
Yeah.
And then sort of after Mercury and Venus go direct towards the end of April, they're going to head, not the same time, but towards the end of April, the last 2 weeks of April, Venus and Mercury will both enter Aries. Neptune's already there, so I reckon with these 2 planets going over, Neptune, who's just gone into Aries, will give us a real taste for how Aries Neptune will work. We get on to May.
May. Moving on to May, I'm excited for May. It is a 5 frequency, and 5 it's an emotional plane number, but it's the middle ground of the emotional plane. So it does allow us to really start to balance up our feelings a lot more. The 5 is right in the center of the matrix of numbers, so it either feels very supportive and held together, or it can feel quite shunned and ignored. So, but the 5 brings change. So it's halfway through the cycle, and it's like you've had the 1, 2, 3, and 4. You've tried to plan things, you've grounded it in. 5's the chance to say, right, that's not working. I'm going to throw it all out and start again. Or it's a checkpoint where, right, okay, I'm ready to commit to this flow that I've started for the last 4 months. So the 5, it wants to change. So it might come in just some freedom and wanderlust energy and travel. It can be you realize you don't quite know enough to get through the rest of the cycle of evolution. So it brings in learning and teaching opportunities, being open to new ideas, and really welcoming the change. So the 5 isn't about forced change, it's about really embodying lessons and welcoming the change, or planning your shift or your next play on the chessboard. It helps look for new opportunities and learn from experiences emotionally, so we can go through it viscerally, mentally. The 5 really wants us to make sure we've got it down pat. If we have, it encourages mentoring. You can feel really called to a higher purpose to help get through the rest of the cycle with 5 energy. So in May, I think we can start to feel really centered, a bit more conscious, say supported, if we've, really looked around and found where our foundations are. And it can be really lighthearted, a 5 energy, encouraging personal growth. Now, on the disempowered side of things, if you're still fighting and hanging on, the 5 can be very argumentative. We can feel stuck and burdened and resistant to change. So when you start to feel this resistance in May, that really is embody your intuition and start to look around for opportunities and mentors perhaps to help you get out of that stuckness. And if you're burdened, is it your burden you're carrying? Is it necessary, or is that something you can learn from past experiences and be more willing to let go of? Like, clinging to the past or outworn ideas, the 5 really wants us to step past that. If we're feeling small and insignificant, get out and do something bigger. Feel that calling to a higher purpose. And if you feel you're unworthy of your dreams or desires, stop bloody listening to other people and, start to do perhaps some journaling and really tune your guitar strings and work out what song you want to play perhaps. Or are you still reading the right book, or are you picked up somebody else's book halfway through a chapter and trying to finish it off and it doesn't make sense? It's I love a 5 energy. I'm a 4 core energy, so a 5 is always kind of what I'm reaching for as the next step. So I like the feel of it. And if you've worked on, these cycles of evolution and what we're ready to step into, the 5 can be really fun and beautiful. So yeah, just being really mindful of those disempowered emotions or thought patterns when they come on board. If they look around for help, ask for help, know you're supported somewhere.
Okay, well, with astrology in May, so what I kind of see here is the first 4 months of the year. So we're dealing with a Mars retrograde. We're dealing with Venus and a Mercury retrograde in the same part of the sky, and then a big eclipse comes along. We've got Neptune moving into Aries, so it's like the first 4 months of the year is just a bit of a shitstorm, chaos, change, people coming, people can just, it's like everything just gets tossed up. And then come May, that's when things really start to settle down and you feel a little bit more, where you're headed. So Mars will get past 6 degrees of Leo, and that whole Mars retrograde fiasco is over. Often when Mars goes retrograde, it's like our drive and energy, the batteries get pulled out. And then I think we'll start to feel, a little bit, get a bit more assertive and get a little bit more clear indication of what we're headed. So with Neptune entering Aries, Mercury and Venus stirring it up a bit, we've got Saturn going in there to create a little bit more structure and slow things down and a little bit of discipline. Also sort of Saturn and Neptune are going to be not quite in the same part of the sky, but are dancing together really closely. So it's like Neptune is limitless, whereas Saturn's limits. So it's like the limitless versus the limits. It's how do we bring some structure and clarity into these limitless ideas and opportunities that we want to do. So it's just like like two completely different energies trying to balance them a bit, which can be probably a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I
So
just
five that
see,
are with the scales, it's that weighing up what feels right, what doesn't.
yeah, it's I don't know, some people go on about another pandemic, but I don't know.
Oh,
Um,
it's a swear word.
yeah, I won't go into that. But yeah, it's
Will
just
be the
bringing,
virus this time.
it's bringing a bit of realism and structure to our fantasies.
Nice. Oh God, what
Um,
have I been fantasizing about? No, I'm joking.
do we want to know?
Travel. There you go.
Travel, okay.
Yeah.
Well, Aries is your ninth house, so you've probably been fantasizing about travel. So when Saturn goes into Aries, you'll have to, make it happen.
Excellent. Done.
At June, I'm not going to crap on as much now. Just going on and on and on.
Yeah, well, it is that big build up for the beginning of the year, and we're starting to go down the wind down of this evolutionary pattern now. The 6 in June, the 6 is the lover's number. It's the middle of the mental plane. So it is a real point of reflection and karmic feedback, karmic balance. So June will support family, friends, creativity, all these loving kind of activities, art, speaking, writing, sharing, being intimate, collaboration, but paying attention to details, being reminiscent. Now, the disempowered side of being this sweet reminiscence, looking back at the past, can be very, again, victimized, this wallowing, sorrowful kind of energy instead. So, June is again a tricky balance. It's kind of like if you see what changes you did or didn't make in May, June will whack you upside of the head and say, right, now make them. This is the karmic feedback of you not making the choices that were best for you. So if June is troublesome, go back and look at May at the opportunities you perhaps didn't take up. On the high side, it is exciting, it's trust, it's victory, it's completions, like a karmic completion, because you get your rewards for the planning you've made, the changes you made or didn't make in the 5. It's a transformation kind of energy. And as I say, the things to look out for if you're struggling mentally in particular, because 6 is this mental plane number. If you're starting to feel greed or betrayed, start to check yourself. Did you express yourself well? If you're feeling dependent, where can you find your independence? If you're too materially focused, you'll be anxious, wallowing, being cruel to yourself and paying for past words or actions. Start to reach out to family, friends, creative pursuits. Calm your farm and try, and if you do get a not a negative, I don't like that word, but if you do get a heavy karmic balance that you don't like, it doesn't feel comfortable, take the lessons from that and understand that we are in this cycle and we're always given another chance to change. So 6 can be amazing. Same as all the numbers, there is a high side and a low side to it. But if you're in the low side, in June, make sure you've got people around you to reach out to as well.
My favorite thing in June is on the 10th, Jupiter will enter Cancer. So it'll wrap up its tour of Gemini. I'm getting all my words mixed up today. Jupiter spends about 12 months in each sign. So Jupiter will head into Cancer on the 10th of June and spend about 12 months in Cancer. What I actually really like about this is all the narky, prickly, uncomfortable shit that Mars has caused in Cancer. This is going to be like putting aloe vera on sunburn. going to be like having your electrolytes when you wake up hungover. It's just going to make everything better.
Excellent.
Well, yeah, it's just like the Cancer and Leo, like the Cancer part of the chart gets a bit assaulted by the good old Mars retrograde, and then June comes along and Jupiter sweeps in and then fills it full of aloe vera. Puts the water on the fire. So where Jupiter goes, often for most people, it brings a bit of luck and opportunity. So you want to check the Cancer house topics of your chart. So from June next year until probably June, July 2026, Jupiter will bring a bit of good luck to those house topics. And then at the very end of June, we prepare for another Mercury retrograde cycle in Leo. So on the 30th, Mercury will enter the shadow period of the Mercury retrograde cycle in Leo. That will really happen in July, but very end of June, it'll start kicking off. So I'll just we'll go to months. And so the 30th of June, you can see that we've got Mercury down here at 4 degrees of Leo. And then in July, we've got on the 15th of July, so next month, Mercury will get 15 degrees of Leo, stop, and then go backwards to 4 again. So late June, you'll get a bit of a taste of what the Mercury retrograde cycle that'll occur in Leo in July will be up to for you. So we'll go to July now.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm playing a little game as you speak, Ames. These big days that you're saying, every time you say, oh, this will be a big day, I'm having a look at what the card of life is on that day. And, the last 4, they've been on 7 of diamond days, which is so much about, so whatever energy you throw around the word God, but it is about looking through God's eyes and trusting in divine purpose, the creation of life, trusting in your values, that sort of thing. So it's very interesting. And now July being a 7 energy month as well. So we call with numerology, particularly in this modality, we call 7 God's number. It is a divine number. And it really is about taking action and being brave and trusting in yourself. It's the last of the physical plane numbers. It's very masculine. It's very giving. So on the high character side of things, it's all about being actually quite reflective, spiritual, forgiving, introspective, noticing those moments of enlightenment. It can be really positive and successful as far as numbers go. So hopefully your 30th of June was in your favour. But the 7 is the number of trust. It wants you to just jump out of the plane without checking your parachute, because you know that you've done all the right things leading up to this point. The 7 is the last change point in the cycle of evolution with numbers. So, you got the chance in May to have a look. Did you make the changes perhaps you should have? You got the karmic feedback of it in June if you didn't like it. The 7 is the last point to kind of make changes around the edges of your hedges, bit of trimming, tidying things up. It's about really taking action, like learning through action and showing others what's possible instead of telling other people what's possible or guilt tripping them. It's this physical side of things. So it can be a really quick energy month as well. Like it might start off, July might start off a bit boring, and then the tail of the 7 comes in and all of a sudden it's August. It definitely encourages independence. And when I say it's like God's number, the number of creation, with 7 energy, it really does support us to shift that. The saying that evolution comes when we realize life is happening for me, not to me. I like to take it a little bit further just to say everything happens for a reason. Life is happening through you, not for or to you, just through you. So the 7 encourages us really to shut the mind off and physically find the trust in our intuition. If we are not feeling very stable, our nervous system is shot, we're disempowered. The 7, instead of being trusting, we can really feel we need to prove our worth to others in the world instead of show by example. And trying to prove people is a very forceful masculine energy instead of the wisdom of the masculine. So you can be quite reckless. There can be losses, endings, and tragedies with 7 energy. Be very wary of this fixed mindset and being closed off from support that was shown to you, in the previous months. And again, be wary of being stubborn, and always focused on the how things are going to happen. We get really fearful of change when we get too stuck in the hows. We get hesitant and arrogant. So to me, July is about trust. Trusting in yourself and just being a little bit more open to trusting others as well. But what do the heavens do for us in July?
We'll have both Neptune and Saturn will start moving retrograde. Will stop in the sky and move retrograde and in Aries, like the very early degrees of Aries. So Saturn will turn retrograde in Aries on the 13th. So, with Saturn normally spends about 2.5 years in a sign. But with often what Saturn does, and a lot of the planets do actually, they'll hover in and out of 2 signs. So they're just getting us in touch with one way of being and they're wrapping up an old way of being. So we're just getting a little touch, probably, I think Saturn went into Aries on May. So between May and July, we're going to get a bit of a taste of what Saturn and Aries will do. Saturn in Aries. I think Saturn's quite uncomfortable in Aries because Aries is really gung-ho and, wants to make things happen, whereas Saturn's like, hang on a minute, we just need to think about this. So it's just going to be this sense of, feeling like things are going a million miles an hour and then they stop, and then it's just, not going to be a smooth, consistent flow of progress into whatever, Saturn in Aries and how it affects you. Also in July, we've got Mercury. Actually, we've got on the 3rd, Neptune will turn retrograde at 2 degrees of Aries. So we're getting a little bit of a taste of Neptune will be in Aries for probably 14 years. So we'll get a bit of a taste, especially when they're turning retrograde. It's like it's an emphasis on it. I also want to think of Neptune and Aries as like boiling water. So, I'm just actually, to be honest, I have trouble really feeling how because I like to, I don't know, it sounds a bit weird but I normally can feel it, but I just cannot feel how Neptune and Aries will do. This just seems a little bit weird to me. Saturn in Aries, I can feel that it's getting frustrated that you want to go gung-ho at something and it's just not fucking moving. But Neptune and Aries, I don't know, I just think of boiling water, and boiling water turns to steam, and it, just gets it's like this anger and frustration that doesn't go anywhere. Emotional anger and frustration that just, bubbles off into the ether. Also in July, that Mercury retrograde in Leo. So reevaluating our passion and purpose. We've had a Mercury retrograde in Leo this year, but it was partly in Virgo as well. So and that was in August. So there might be a little bit of a, in July next year, revisiting some of the stuff that was going in August this year. So July is just, we've got the Mercury retrograde in Leo. Actually, the sun's also exalted in Aries, and the sun is about our purpose. It's about what we're here to do, what we're like, that divine spark that's like, yes, this is what we've got to do. It's like the plot in a play or something like that. So it's like July is really, we're rethinking our purpose and where we want to go.
Oh, very good. And yeah, definitely supports that with the 7. And again, with the cards of life, it's interesting. July the 1st is Ace of Spades. So it is truly about our purpose, not the rest of the world. And that's the end of the spades for the year, 1st of July. So it's like you've contemplated that enough. Now it's time to actually walk it. And the heart suit starts to come in more from here on in for the rest of the year. So I like what you said about that. Now with August is the 8 energy. So that's the energy we've had all the way through 2024. It's August will be pretty quick. I always see the 8 energy like a racetrack, put it on its side and cars are racing around and going so fast and then out of control at the edges and then so fast again and out of control. And this is the pattern, that infinity sign of creation, and it's the 8 is the number of mastery. It's a feminine number and it's receptive, and it's the last in the emotional plane numbers. So the 8 is really like the characteristics of it on the high sides, really powerful and stepping into authority, visionary kind of energy. So August is our chance to, really master the things that we've been working on for the year. And I say this year itself, it has been a really momentous kind of year. It again started off slow, but it's all of a sudden we're out of time and it's the end of the year. So the 8 is about commitment to ourself and our path. That's how mastery comes, when you stop being distracted by everything else and everybody else's plans too. It's about preparation, cultivation, wealth, looking at a legacy, your fortitude. It's a calm kind of energy as well. As I say, the 2 is a very immature emotional energy. The 5's reflective. The 8 is like the grandmother emotional energy. It's strong and calm and patient and virtuous. The 8 loves integrity. So, if you think of the word like inner grit, we're very it supports being very precise and deliberate and being allowing and ready for more. So if we're struggling in our little racetrack of August, we can feel quite out of control and that events are moving too quickly. It's like, oh, I've run out of chances to change now. We feel the end of the cycle coming upon us. So we can feel this life reaching a breaking point. And again, remember that it's a 9 energy year. So all of this is amplified. And again, it's our shadow side coming out. And so much of life is about ignoring our shadow and calming our nervous system through addictions, whether it be food, drugs, alcohol, scrolling, shopping, whatever. So August really is going to be a heightened month, I feel. And as they amplified and mirroring ourselves back to ourselves. So be really wary of a destructive energy and this self-sabotage, depression, anger, and giving up, reactionary kind of energy. Just slow it down again. Find your inner grit, like bunker on down into yourself and slow down and take these precise, deliberate steps in August. And then get ready for the 9 energy month in September.
Well, the main astrology event that's happening in August is Mercury is just going to station direct in Leo at 4 degrees. So the 8, am I right in saying, is a bit of a power number? It makes you get up and do things.
Oh, it is very much. Yeah. Yeah. It's the
Yeah,
number,
well,
it's the infinity number. There's, infinite energy and time and opportunities when we slow it down and we're not feeling this out of control car on a racetrack.
yeah, because Leo is a sign, it's ruled by the sun. So there's this sort of this passionate get up and go, um, striving after things in a slow, methodical manner. And it's like we've got this Mercury retrograde that starts in July in the seventh month, which is about going inward and rediscovering what's important to us. And is that right with the seven number?
Yep,
So we've
definitely.
got, and then we go into the 8th month and Mercury goes direct in Leo. So it's like the 7 with the retrograde. We're going within, we're figuring out where we want to go, re-looking at our sense of purpose. And then August comes, Mercury goes direct, and then we get off our ass and make things happen.
Mm, sounds
Oh, if
right.
that made any sense, but anyway.
Yeah, yeah, no, completely. Yeah.
Um, and then we go into September.
Yeah. So September, again, it's not just the amplification of the 9 on the 9, but it's the 9 on the 9 on the 9. So the September is kind of like the culmination of the year with the work that I do. It's about graduation and times this by 3. Actually, not times it by 3, multiply it to the power of 3, I'd say. So completion, graduation, initiation kind of experiences in September. Again, encouraging this final release from what you've been building up and learning through the year and even through the last 9 years. September is this breakthrough end of a cycle of the last 9 years. It's about really this self-awareness. It's falling off the edge of the cliff before we start the cycle again. So the focus is on the higher purpose. It's too late to go scrambling for what was left behind, sort of thing. So I'd definitely encourage meditation, rest, tapping into what you're confident about in life. The 9 is a mental plane number, the last of the mental plane numbers. And the 9 has the wisdom of knowing intuitively the frequency of all the other numbers. So when we tap into that more universal knowledge rather than the small monkey mind knowledge that the 9 brings, we can be more confident and happy in our choices. If things hurt in the past, we take the lessons from that. We massacate it over and digest it properly in September. We commit to ourself and what feels right for us. How many people are exhausted just trying to do what's right for others and leave themselves wanting and resentful. And resentment is one of the ickiest emotions we'll hang on to. With kinesiology, when we tap into the body and work out what is stored where, if you've ever had sciatica, hip problems, work out what you're feeling resentful for. And this is September's real lesson. Like, have you committed to yourself first? And that sounds really selfish when you say that, but it's not that kind of energy. This is the mastery side of commitment to self. Not to forsake everybody else, but when you know yourself properly, we're not playing mind games and energy wrestling games with others and manipulation. So you're only going to be better and stronger for those that you love, rather than seen as selfish. On the lower side of the 9, if you're struggling, you can be really resistant to letting go of the changes that are very blaringly going to be obvious that you'll need to make in September. You can feel separated. We can let things go. End of cycles don't always have to be dramatic. It can just be a real feeling of boredom in September, or complacent, or just plain out avoidant and being stuck in your habits. Because the 9 is a mental energy, there is still the worry, overthinking, discouraged kind of aspect. There's no physical aspect to the 9, so you can feel quite burnt out, ready to just give up, grief, shock, denial, that sort of thing. So I would definitely do your planning, do your diary writing, do your whatever you do with your self-improvement building up through the year in 2025, because September will be the peak of that, I believe.
Well, so the September astrology is on the 1st, Saturn will go back into Pisces because until next year, it'll be hovering in and out of Aries and Pisces. Also on the 6th, Uranus will station retrograde at 1 degree of Gemini. I think back in July, I forgot to mention that Uranus will enter Gemini, but it did. And Uranus and Gemini, I just like, and with like when I think of it together with Pluto and Aquarius, both being air signs, there's just so much shit going on with like social media and mainstream media and media corporations and information and technology and AI. I've got Jupiter there at the moment, sort of giving a bit of growth to that. But I really think with Gemini, Uranus going into Gemini, it's just going to be in like the changes and the like what comes through it was just going to be insane. And I really think there's just going to be more and more independent media. I think mainstream media is really going to lose its power. There'll be a lot more podcasting and that sort of stuff. So yeah, on the 6th, Uranus will station retrograde at 1 degree of Gemini. And also in September, we've got some eclipses happening in Pisces and Virgo. So on the 8th, we've got a lunar eclipse at 15 degrees of Pisces. That'll be with the North Node. So often lunar eclipse is a bit like a full moon. There's a completion, and with the North Node, it's like whatever completes, whatever culminates is going to open another door to something else. On the 22nd, there'll be a partial solar eclipse at 29 degrees of Virgo. So it's like, so that'll be with the South Node. So the South Node has more to do with releasing and letting go. So it's like something's got to be released and let go of before we can move forward. Often with eclipses, they often bring big endings and new beginnings with them, and that'll have to do with the Virgo Pisces house topics of your chart. So if the North Node is in Pisces and the South Node is in Virgo, and Virgo is your 2nd house and Pisces is your 8th house, possibly there's just going to be some big endings and big new beginnings with your financial situation.
Mm.
So it's like, yeah, the Pisces and Virgo parts of the chart are going to be quite emphasized, and it's just like Saturn's coming back in to sort of with the eclipses wrap a few things up. So endings, clear the decks, move on.
Beautifully supports that 9 ending of the cycle. And just 2 things that you said, Amy, that as far as independent news and social media is concerned, I'm going to do a quick plug for a bloke who does, look him up. It's called Punters Politics. And interestingly, with the numbers we've been talking about, big change points in May and September, that's the bookend time for Australia calling an election as well. So we'll either have an election in May or September, depending when it's called.
It'd have to be May, because if it went, I don't know whether the Albanese can ban. Anyway, I'll have to show you some of the stuff I've looked at. The natal chart that I use for Australia. This is pretty interesting. I'll show you later.
That would be very good, actually. And I just thought with these change points, like universally, and I mean, we're in Australia and oh God, we need change. And just you mentioning independence, check out your local independents. We don't have to just go Labor or Liberal. But this bloke who does Punters Politics, brilliant. Brilliant guy and political commentator with a real laugh as well, but fantastic points. So
One of the senators that I absolutely love, which is Malcolm Roberts, he calls the Labor, and I've heard him say it before, and I think it's just hilarious. He calls the Labor and Liberal Party the same cheeks of the one asshole or something.
exactly, yeah, I love him too already, so much so, and it's the crack in the middle that makes the most noise. The asshole in the middle that farts the loudest. That's going to bring
Yeah.
change. So yeah,
No, yeah,
look,
no, this is it. The same cheeks of the one asshole, something like that.
there you go.
Yeah, I get like a, whenever I think of Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini, my head throat starts throbbing. I don't know why, but I think
Yeah,
it's just like those two planets in those signs. It's just going to be a massive head fuck when it comes to information, I think,
yeah, yeah,
and
probably.
technology. I think Elon Musk and anybody that's got a big social media company is going to be busy for a few years.
No, I've definitely been drawn away from social media more and more.
Oh, it's
Uh,
giving me the shit. I just, and these like fucking influencers, and I really like, I guess it's probably because I am going into a 7 year, but I've just been wanting to go live on a fucking mountain by myself for a while.
so I
Like,
think that's my plan. I've just got a few more children to raise first.
oh, it's just so much bullshit in the world at the moment. Like,
It's very noisy.
oh, it's the way things are going. It's like in 50 years, people will just be happy to fuck a robot and not go near anyone. Like, sorry, that's probably doesn't sound good, but we're just getting so far away from what makes us really human. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, this is the split that yogis have talked about for hundreds of years, and whether you get into spiritual circles and the split between 3D and 5D or whatever, but there is a huge portion of society that has just had enough and will start to turn away from it, and then the other side that'll just bed further into it. And I think that's the split that is definitely upon us.
Yeah,
Um,
well, I think with Pluto in Aquarius too, it's like we're just so globally interconnected. And I think a lot more countries and people and groups will be really going back to their sovereignty as well.
mm,
Um, and I just like when Pluto was going through Capricorn, like the government and governments all over the world just acquired so much power, especially during COVID and that. And I just see with the 20 years that Pluto's going to be in Aquarius, it's the power's going back to the people.
yeah,
Oh,
good, about time.
yeah. So we're up to October.
Yeah, all right, we're on the downhill slope now, and we'll stop being part of the noise of social media. We'll get back on track. October is back to the one with numbers. If you add up the 1 and the 0 of October with the 2 and the 2 and the 5 of 2025, it comes to a 10. So it's a 1, but it has more infinite possibilities because we've got the 0 point field on board as well. So the 1 again brings us back to the new ideas and inspiration in October, but with a higher potential because we've gone through this cycle of evolution. Hopefully, we understand that every second is another choice point in infinite possibilities. So I feel a lot of space and excitement for October. And October, we get the feel of the next year as well. So we'll start to, again, it's amplified because it's the 1 amplified by a 9 energy year, but getting ready for the 1 energy year in 2026. So I think there's a lot of positive things that will happen in October. And again, a lot of starting to communicate, a lot of conversations around fresh planning and goal setting in a bigger way. And again, if you're still on that disempowered side, you're back to this attachment to the past. You know, there's always the naysayers that didn't like the change that occurred. So I think October, there'll be less of that. And again, the one is back in the physical plane in a real fresh energy. So yeah, for us here in Australia, it's spring. It's ready for people to be out and about and starting to wind the year down again.
Well, early on in the month, Pluto will station direct at 1 degree of Aquarius. So we'll give some forward momentum to Aquarius, the Aquarius house topics in your chart. And then towards the end of the month, Mercury will go into Scorpio and it'll enter the shadow period of its retrograde cycle that will occur in both Sagittarius and Scorpio. And on the 22nd, Neptune will go back into Pisces. So it's like the start of the year between January and February, not January and March. We're just getting a bit of a taste for a fair bit of Aries energy. We get both Neptune and Saturn going into Aries, and then towards the end of the year, it's like there's some things that got to be wrapped up and finalised in Pisces before they really get going in Aries again. So it's just like we're going to go towards the end of the year. We've just got some revisiting and rethinking to go, and then come next year, we're off. So we're into November.
November, November's a funny one with the numbers. It's a real code because again, we've got the 2, but it comes from the 11 this time, and it's again amplified by that 9. So November is again, it's about connections, relationships, communication, but it's more with not just the humans in your life, but with your higher self, if you want to use that terminology. So it's forming a relationship with, say, I hate to keep saying your higher purpose, but November will be quite a spiritual, contemplative kind of energy. You might not be so pulled to go out and collaborate and form partnerships with the humans in your life, and you will too. I mean, that's supported mediation and starting to step forward and share ideas. But it's again at this higher level. It's not just small relationships. It really is a bigger, broader picture. So it's more inclusive of societal ideas. What's your relationship with society, the world as a whole and everything within it, rather than just your neighbour and the person at the shop. And again, if you're not liking what's out there and what you see, you can feel quite insecure and again clingy. We can have very low physical energy with that and procrastinating. With an 11 on board, you can see both sides of the story and all possibilities again, and it's harder for people to make a decision. So this is where we want to call in some higher aspects to help us in November. As I say, a bit more of a universal hive mind rather than the small human protective mind. And again, it's the build up to the Christmas season. We start to feel that shift in energy and the extra light coming to the earth, I believe, in November in preparation for the holy days in December. So it will really highlight if you have disconnected yourself from yourself and others and amplify that loneliness. And really, if you do notice that, encourage you to step out of yourself and find your tribe.
Well, you say that November is 2 energy and it's like a really sensitive number. Is that right?
Yeah,
we actually
particularly from the 11 as opposed to the 20,
Yeah, well, we've got some a fair bit happening in water signs, and often water signs have a real touch of sensitivity to them. So on the 10th, Mercury will station retrograde at 6 degrees of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a fire sign, but Mercury will then go back into Scorpio, which is it's not like I probably should say this, but you sort of think of Cancer as the crybaby. Scorpio is a little bit more guarded and probably more volatile with their emotions. Like their still waters run very deep. So we've got the Mercury retrograde going on in Sagittarius and Scorpio. Jupiter is going to station retrograde at 25 degrees of Cancer. And we're also going to have Uranus going back into Taurus. So there's this like a fair bit going on in water signs. So there's this sensitivity to the month. And then we've got another planet going back into another sign. So earlier during the year, Uranus, what happened in, what did I write? In July, Uranus went into Taurus. So we've had Saturn, we've had Neptune, we've had Uranus shift signs and then go back in. Jupiter's also shift signs as well. So it's like the start of the year, the chaos comes up, we move forward, but then we've got to go back and just iron a few things out before we can really go forward again. So that's November. There's this sensitivity, yeah, emotional sensitivity is just quite a big focus.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel that, and intuitively, channeling a lot of messages again with change in politics of the world and in our own country, and a lot of things on the table that need to be worked out. I think a lot will be shifted and people will start to be more empathetic rather than combative, and capitalism hopefully will be a little more muted.
Well, actually, I think actually capitalism is good in a way, but it's got to be a bit better regulated.
Well, yeah, definitely. Like from all sides of things, as opposed to the power to just a few. And I think that will be equalised. Anyway, here's hoping. So with December, the last month of the year, we go back into the 3, and again amplified. It's the 12th month. You're adding the 9 to the 12, and it comes to the 12 again and down to the single digits of the 3. So it brings in again the mind, but the more, the young, playful, creative mind. December hopefully will start to be a bit lighter. People will be ready to play. They'll feel supported. Friends and groups, and instead of just the black and white scenario, people are going to start to see there really are multiple ideas and experiences for everybody. Not one thing's right just for everybody. There will be a bit more of a splinter. There'll be obviously it's the end of the year again. People love to party in December, so it will be really joyful, I believe, the end of next year. It brings a lot of hope for the churning up that will happen, that it will finish on a high note. So again, it's a mental plane, so not a lot of physicality on board. We can feel overwhelmed, indulgent, and that's never nice in a December. Spread too thin. We can be quite with all those things, when we're overwhelmed and we're spread too thin, we're discouraged, then anxiety and depression can follow. As I said earlier, that's definitely something to be careful of when you're in the mental plane. So again, prepare for December. Don't try and rush everything at the end of the year, because you might not pull it off and you'll end up just comparing yourself and getting stuck in that negative self-talk and punishment again. And it's funny, just spilling over into 2026, after the 3 energy of December next year, the following January will go back into a 2, and then the February will be a 3 again. So there'll be a little bit of a stop start with the end of next year and the start of the following year as well.
The astrology, the main stuff that's happening in December is Neptune will station direct at 29 degrees of Pisces for the final time in a long, long time. And then it'll eventually probably early next year, go into Aries where it'll stay for about 14 years. Mercury will get out of its shadow because it'll station direct early in the month. So I just feel December is like where we can breathe and get on with it.
Yeah. I love December because it's the only month that expresses the full suit of the hearts. So, around the 18th of December, we get the King of Hearts, and it goes all the way downhill to the Ace of Hearts on today, the 30th of December. So I think after a big year next year, December will be really beautiful.
Yeah, I just felt like when I'm just looking at December now, like just breathe. Yeah, I think the big parts of the year are going to be February, March, April, and September.
Mm.
But I think probably for a lot of people, not everyone, it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable the first half of the year. But I think by the end of the year, you'll have it all figured out and know what's going on, and feel a little bit more comfortable in yourself.
Yeah, I really like the patterning and the coding that's coming out. So that's just how I see it through the numbers, I guess. And it's rare that you get something so organized where, as I say, you really flow through that cycle of evolution from the one in January up to the peak in September and then downhill again to finish. So as much as we go, oh, it's going to be a big one with change and shake-ups, it's going to be organized, and I think I like it.
Yeah, all right. Well, I hope 2025 works out well for everybody. I'm really tired after doing that.
Yeah, we've been prattling for a long time, but it is a year forecast video. So if you've sat through the lot of it, we thank you. And even if we put chapter points in there or something for each month, people can go back to and revisit the month before it happens. But we've just a year in numbers and planets and prattled on about it. So
yeah, I don't know whether I've just got this feeling that I might have left out the lunar eclipse at 23 degrees of Virgo in March. So I don't know whether I did or not, but I'm just going to put it in there.
I think we spoke about it. What day did you say? On the 3rd of March?
On the 14th. Sometimes I get talking about stuff and I get distracted and I end up so far away from what I'm meant to be talking about.
It's a lot of information you deal with astrology. Your work's amazing, Amy. So I thank you very much for your knowledge.
Yeah, sometimes it can be hard I find it hard to organise it. Like I know what it means, but organising it in a way that everybody else knows what it means is a different story.
Yeah, it's tricky. And, you do it really in depth. So I was clever enough last year to get Amy to do a 12-month forecast for me. And it was spot on all the way through the year. All the peaks and troughs played out exactly as you channeled the heavens for me. So if anyone wants that kind of guidance for 2025, I would thoroughly recommend contacting Amy for your 12-month forecast. It's a lot of information and it's so incredibly clever how it all works out. And you've given me so much knowledge in how to dive into my own chart as well throughout the year. So I appreciate that. Love your work.
Oh, that's right. And Fiona is a very talented kinesiologist. I've seen her a few times before and she has made a big difference. So don't hesitate to make an appointment.
Yes, I'm still doing it in between the rest of life. So I've been quiet on social media, as I say, but I'm still working away in the background.
All right.
So thanks for hanging, Amy. Thanks for anyone watching. If you've watched through the whole lot or skipped through to important parts, we appreciate you.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a great 2025.